Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to do something I find absolutely fascinating. We're going to map the invisible physics of language. When you speak, you are instantly calculating and deploying this incredibly dense, multi-layered framework of meaning. It feels totally effortless, right? But the architecture behind a single sentence is honestly as complex and elegant as quantum mechanics. So, to understand how this dense linguistic theory translates into the everyday reality of communication, we're relying on the pioneering work of Holliday and Matheson. We'll be applying a sort of zooming lens to systemic functional linguistics. Let's get into it. To really ground this, let's place a concrete, historical specimen right under our microscope. Today, all of us do, by our presence here, confer glory and hope to newborn liberty. Now, that's from Nelson Mandela's 1994 inaugural speech. Obviously, a profoundly moving moment in human history, but for a linguist, it's also a data point. It's a physical, tangible manifestation of abstract linguistic potential, and we're going to use this exact specimen to anchor our whole exploration today. To deconstruct this dense framework, we'll sequentially apply 5 different structural lenses: text as artifact and specimen, constituency and the rank scale, stratification, instantiation, and finally, the metafunctional spectrum. Let's kick things off with our first lens: text, artifact, and specimen. Whenever we analyze a piece of language, we really have to recognize this dual nature it possesses. Whether it's Mandela's speech or your grandmother's chili recipe or a late-night text message, it operates on 2 distinct levels simultaneously. On one hand, you have the text as an artifact. It carries social, cultural, and historical weight. Mandela's speech literally changed the world. It's a momentous cultural artifact. But on the exact same token, we have to view the text as a specimen. Because to a grammarian, all texts are created equal. They are functional, observable samples of the exact same underlying linguistic system. They all draw from the very same meaning-making resources. All right, zooming in a bit, we hit our second lens: constituency, the rank scale. If language is an architecture, constituency is the study of its bricks and beams. Grammar isn't just a loose pile of words. It has a rigorous compositional structure where larger units are systemically built out of smaller ones. At the foundational level, we have morphemes, the absolute smallest units of meaning. Those stack together to build words, words group up to form phrases, and those phrases interlock to build the clause. Now, the clause is absolutely vital. Think of it as the central processing unit of human grammar. It's the specific domain where completely different kinds of meaning are seamlessly mapped into one integrated structural unit. Every single time you utter a clause, you're essentially running a highly complex cognitive program. And what's brilliant is how the physical sound of speech perfectly mirrors that grammatical architecture through its own parallel hierarchy. We call this the phonological rank scale. Just as grammar builds up to the clause, the sound you produce builds up from a tiny articulatory gesture, the phoneme, up into a syllable, then into a rhythmic foot, and finally into a complete tone group, which is essentially a continuous snatch of verbal melody. Let's actually zoom in on just one of those sound components for a second: the foot. Think of the phonological foot like a nested musical bar, completely defined by a strict rhythmic beat. This shows us the concrete physical mechanics of human speech, because every natural spoken sentence has a rhythm carried by a succession of beats. You have a strong syllable carrying the beat, the ictus, and that's optionally followed by weaker syllables called the ramus. This isn't just a poetry concept. This is literally the fundamental pulse of how your body pushes air out of your diaphragm to create meaning in real time. Moving right along to our third lens: stratification, layers of realization. Language isn't flat. It is deeply, wonderfully stratified. Imagine a multi-dimensional matrix grid that maps out a realizational chain. The entire system is split into 2 massive planes: content and expression. Abstract meaning starts up in the semantic stratum, which acts as the interface between meaning and the outside context. That abstract meaning is then naturally, systemically transformed into internal wording down in the lexicogrammatter. From there, we cross the boundary over to the expression plane, where those internal words are organized into sound structures in the phonology stratum and then finally output as physical motor movements in the phonetics. It is this breathtaking cascade. Meaning realizes into wording, which realizes into sound. Now for our fourth lens: instantiation, climate versus weather. To truly understand instantiation, we have to introduce the dimensions of time and probability. We need to grasp how instantiation connects the virtual, limitless potential of a whole language to the highly specific, ephemeral texts that we actually produce every single day. See, the linguistic system is a vast network of potential choices. A specific text is just the result of choosing specific paths through that system network in a given moment.
The absolute best way to conceptualize this is using one of the most powerful analogies in linguistics: weather and climate. Just as weather is simply the climate seen up close, a text is the underlying language system instantiated in the moment. The climate is the overarching theory of the weather. It's the long-term potential of the atmosphere. The weather is what actually hits your face when you step outside. You cannot separate the two. Every text you speak is the linguistic weather born directly out of your cultural climate.
As we slide down this continuum, what we call the cline of instantiation, we're shifting our focus. We start way up high at the vast, abstract cultural climate, representing the total meaning potential of a culture. Then, we narrow down to a register, say, the specific language patterns used in a courtroom or a weather forecast. We narrow even further to a specific text type. And finally, we arrive at the instance, the exact individual text being spoken right here, right now, the tangible weather of a single phrase.
Which brings us to our final lens, the metafunctional spectrum.
Every single clause we speak simultaneously slices meaning into three independent parts. The entire architecture of language is arranged along functional lines, specifically these three. This means whenever you open your mouth to speak, you aren't just doing one thing. You are actually performing three massive computational tasks at the exact same time.
Language doesn't just passively describe the world around us. It concurrently constructs logic, acts upon social relationships, and weaves a cohesive narrative flow. First up, we have the ideational metafunction. This construes our experience. Its language functioning as reflection, helping us categorize the physical and mental world. Second is the interpersonal metafunction. This enacts our social relationships. Its language is action, allowing us to demand, offer, or align with the person we're talking to. And third is the textual metafunction, which organizes the flow of discourse. This is language as continuity, ensuring that your message holds together from one sentence to the next. Absolutely every single clause requires all three to function.
So, we've zoomed from the macroclimate of culture all the way down to the microrhythm of the phonological foot. We've mapped the invisible realizational chain connecting human thought to physical sound. So here's my question for you. How does your perception of reality shift now that you know every single sentence you speak manipulates a three-dimensional grid of meaning? Because every time you order a coffee, or text a friend, or listen to a historic speech, you are witnessing the elegant simultaneous calculation of ideational, interpersonal, and textual physics. I hope this explainer leaves you deeply curious about the immense, invisible architectural power hiding right there behind your everyday conversations. Keep observing, keep questioning, and keep exploring the architecture of meaning.